Hi everyone again. So we are in Oracle Identity Manager training in module 6 where we are looking at consoles in Oracle Identity Manager. My name is Atul Kumar and I'll be explaining you about various consoles in Oracle Identity Manager. So in this lesson we are going to look at the third console, that is Identity Console in Oracle Identity Manager. So the first console we looked at in lesson 1 was Oracle WebLogic console. Then in the previous lesson we looked at Oracle Fusion Middleware Control console or Enterprise Manager console. Now, in this lesson we are going to look at Identity console, which is / identity, and that gets deployed on Oracle Identity Manager managed server. The fourth console is going to be sysadmin console that we are going to look at in the next lesson. So let's look at what Oracle Identity Manager Identity Console provides. So first is it's a graphical user interface to manage your users, groups, roles, or requests within Oracle Identity Manager. Now this console is typically used by Oracle Identity Manager end users. So these end users could be the internal your employees who wants to manage their own identities or request for access, or it could be external facing as well, where you expose Oracle Identity Manager screens to the external world. And usually what you do is you customize look and feel of this Oracle Identity Manager console specific to you control who can see what, and you can change look and feel and from a branding point of view. So how to customize the look and feel of identity console we are going to look at in the later modules. But this is for now, remember that it's mainly used by end users. Your administrators can also use it to approve requests or create users on others' behalf, but we are going to look at that soon. Now, this is the application that gets deployed on Oracle Identity Manager managed server. In module 2, we looked at what is a WebLogic domain. In that domain, when during configuration and at the time of start stop, we looked at there is a managed server that is part of Oracle Identity Manager managed server, that is OIM and server 1, that listens on port number 14,000. This application gets deployed on that particular managed server. Now, since you're deploying Oracle Identity Manager application or identity application on an OIM managed server, this application supports active cluster, and the URL is usually HTTP and then your OIM host colon OIM port. The default port number is 14000 and then / identity. Now, in order to log in to this Oracle Identity Manager, you have to have a user inside the USR table. So there's a schema which is your prefix underscore OIM, and in that schema there is a table called USR, and your user should exist in that table. Now if you are using Oracle Access Manager as a single sign-on URL to application, then you also sync this user from Oracle Identity Manager to the OID or OUD using LDAP sync, and Oracle Access Manager authenticate against that source. So in a typical enterprise deployment, you will be protecting this identity console via Oracle Access Manager single sign-on server, and then you use the Oracle Access Manager to log into Identity Console. But it's not mandatory. Identity Console comes with its own local authentication against Oracle Identity Manager database. So what you do is you type, in order to log in, you type the IP address of your machine and then colon 14,000, which is a Oracle Identity Manager managed server, and then / identity. Since you are accessing 14,000 port number, which is a non-single sign-on environment or non-SSO URL, you'll be entering Axial sysadm as a user and a password. This Excel sysadm is a super user that gets created when you configured Oracle Identity Manager. So in module installation and configuration, the last lesson was to configure Oracle Identity Manager. And it prompted us during configuration of Oracle Identity Manager in lesson 12 of module, I think it's module 4, where we covered installation and configuration of Oracle Identity and Access Management. That's where it create a user Excel SysADM that gets created inside the table USR within Oracle Identity Manager schema. So you will see Ford's identity and then you enter your user ID and password. So this Excel SysADM is an administrator and this user has super user roles or administrator roles, so it can create other users, create other roles, create other organizations. Now, if you integrate identity with Oracle Access Manager for single sign-on, you'll be using the Oracle HTTP server URL, which is your OHS host name, OHS port number, and or if you have a load balancer in front of that load balancer and then / identity. So once you log into the console, this is the landing page looks like. So there are various tabs. So first tab is going to be self-service. So it's mainly for the task for self-service, which means the user can act on his behalf or its own behalf. So first is for my information. So it's to manage your profile, like changing your password, changing your challenge question. What a challenge question is, we'll cover that in a minute. Then you have your access, what all applications you have access to. Now, this tab here governs request access. So let's suppose you want access to a system, you can request it from here. Then that request might go for approval depending on how the request is configured. You can track the progress on your request by clicking here. Now, provisioning tasks, which are basically on take action on fulfillment task assigned to you. So here you will see any tasks assigned to you and you can act on them by going here. Specific to provisioning the accounts or fulfilling or fulfillment related task. Now this is where you will see any approvals that are pending on you. So for example, you could be a manager and you say all the requests related to the application that you manage, all the account creation requests should come to you for approval. So when someone raises a request by going into their request access and you are the owner of that application for which request has been raised, the request will come to you for approval and this is where you log in and approve the someone's request that is assigned to you. So this is request for others. So by clicking here on, so when you request access, you can request for yourself or you can request for others. So in this tab, the request has been made for others. So let's suppose you are a manager and you want to request a user to be created in Active Directory for an employee that is reporting to you. So what you're going to do is, because this request of account creation is for another user, what you're going to do is you're going to follow this request access for others and you will first select the user, add the requested access and then check out. What is the checkout? What is this shopping cart you see here you've added? We are going to soon cover that in subsequent modules. Then second tab within identity console is for manage, and this is for managing other users or roles or organizations or other administrative roles and policies. What a policy is, we'll cover that in subsequent modules. But for users, you know what a user is or what a role is or what an organization is. User is and user. Roles are collection of users to which you have assigned a particular permission. So role could be an administrator role, or role could be an EBS account so that when someone added to that role, they will get a Oracle e-business suite account automatically. Then you have organization. So organization is basically you could categorize your users and groups in an organization against which some policies can be applied. For example, a particular role can be granted only to a selective organization, or access to a particular application or account creation can be scoped to an organization, which means a account can be created in a system only if user belongs to a specific organization. So this is basically mainly for scoping or delegated admin. Again, we are going to cover these things in later modules. Then there are policies and administrative roles as well. So this is the user tab. So if I say click on users, if I click on manage users, this is how it looks like. So you can search for the user, you can create a user if you have right permission, or you can enable or disable user or lock a user. So this is how you can search. You can search on multiple criterias. I'm going to show you by logging on to the identity console on that. Then when you click on a specific user, so let's assume I've clicked on if this user is a specific user. When you click on that user, it will tell you the more details about the user. So now I am on a user called system administrator. Now here, when I go in detail of this user, I can modify this user. Since user is already enabled, it's grayed out, but I can disable the user, or I can delete the user. I can lock the user or unlock because it's already unlocked. That's why it's grayed. Or I can reset the password of this user. Then this tab below that will list down the attributes related to the user. If I need to assign or revoke some roles, I'll go there. If I need to assign or revoke some entitlement, I'll click on this tab. If I need to create some accounts or enable or remove accounts, I'll go here. If I need to see the direct reports, I'll go here. Organizations assigned to this user or to which this user belong, I'll click here. And then this will list down the admin roles assigned to this user and so on. Again, we are going to cover these things, what a role is, what is an entitlement, what is account, or things that are important. We are going to cover them in subsequent lessons or modules. But for now, you can manage a user from here. So this is a second tab. If you click on a roles, this is how it looks like. So this user called system administrator have two roles, system administrators and BI report administrator. Then if you need a look at the roles, so if you go back and select roles from your manage identity console, so this is how the roles will look like. You can again search for the role, you can create a role, you can open or edit a role, or enable or disable a role. So when you click on a role, the role will also have attributes similar to user. So role attribute could be role name or display name, the owner of the role, members of the role, or members that are part of role. And role can have a hierarchy. Now there is something called as access policy. That is things to automate. Again, we are going to cover that access policy separately. What is the reason for using access policy and where is it used? Then this will tell members that are part of this role and then organizations associated with this role. Then you have chain roles as well. Again, when we look at roles, and that's when we are going to define more about, but you can create chain roles as well. Then something similar to roles, you also have admin roles. So admin roles are a different type of role. So when we look at the roles, we are going to explain the differences between a normal role and an admin role. Then clicking on when you search for an admin role and you click on any one of the attributes, you can manage or you can look at details about the admin roles. So this covers in a nutshell, very high level, users, groups, organization I've not yet looked it into, but we are going to look at or self-service. So you log into the console. So ensure that Oracle Identity Manager Managed Server is up and running, and then log in through Excel SysADM, and then you can create other users as well, or create another normal type of user, and then see the difference, what you can do and what you can't do by a normal user or by an administrator. So I'm going to log into server and I'll do some small activity. First, I'll log in as a super user, that is Excel CDM, and then create a user, normal simple type of user within Oracle Identity Manager, and then we'll log in using that user and see how it behaves, or Identity Console behaves differently for an administrator user and for a normal user. So let's log into the server now. So if you notice, this is my IP address of the machine, and then colon 14,000 and forward slash identity on the browser. I get a login page. So I'm going to type XCL ADM and the password as welcome one, because that's the password I created during Oracle Identity Manager configuration. Now there are other links as well, like if you forgot your user login or forgot password, if you want to create a new user or track your registration. So click on login. Now you're on identity console, that is forward slash identity forward slash faces and first login. So what happens is, to after creating a user, you log in first time, you're answering the challenge question. And what these challenge questions are, from a drop down, there are by default 4 challenge questions. And one of the basic requirements in implementation is adding more challenge question or removing these challenge questions. So we'll be adding as a bonus how to create these challenge questions and how to edit these challenge questions or remove them, or you can have more than 4 challenge questions, or you can change number of challenge question from 3 to 4 or to 5. So what you do, where these challenge questions come into picture are, whenever you need to, if you forgot your password, you can reset the password by answering these challenge questions yourself. So that's a self-service second form of authentication. So I'll say name and then birth and then color and then click submit. So if you notice here on top URL, it's first time logging in, and once challenge questions are set, I can then log in now. Now, if I need to change these challenge questions, I'll go into my information, and this is where I can reset my profile, password, or challenge questions. So I can change like my first name, middle name, last name, or email ID, or display name, or I can go to click here and then change my password, or something similar here, change the challenge question. So I can, in order to change the password, I need to provide old password and then I can reset my new password. Similarly, I can anytime change these answer to the challenge questions. So this is identity console, and there are other things as well here, so go and play with this. Then if you need to create a users, you go to manage and then create other users. So let me log in and create a user. So I'm on a manage, I'll go to users in order to create a new user, and now I click on a button create. Now there are some mandatory attributes that are required and some are non-mandatory. The mandatory attribute will have star next to them. So the effective date will say from when, at what date to start this user. If you leave it blank, it will be created immediately. Now I'll say first name is Atul, let's example, and then my last name is mandatory. So I'll say Kumar, and then organization right now. So if you create a organization, that organization should be visible here. Since we have not created any organization, we'll simply search organization and work with a basic organization like Accelerate. So I'll select that and click on select. Then I'll type the user type. So I can say contractor or an employee. So let's do a contractor. And then if I don't enter any user login, the identity manager screen is going to create a user for me. If I create a user, so let me create a user called Atul Kumar, or you can leave it blank as well. Similarly, it can automatically generate a username for me, or you can leave blank as well here. So if you leave it blank, it will automatically create a password randomly and will email it to you, or whatever email ID you have selected here. Now rest all are, you can do a other things, provisioning date and other things. Nothing is mandatory. All these things, only these things were mandatory. So I'll say submit. So if you notice, I get a message saying user created successfully. Now I'll verify if the user exists. So I'll search on user login basis and created a user called Atul Kumar, and I have this user, and this user is active and unlogged. So I'll log out from here and then log in with Atul Kumar as a user and see what I can or can't do with this. So I'll say click here to log in and type user as Atul Kumar. And if I remember password correctly, no, I don't. So let me type password one more time and click on sign in. So if you see here, I'm again first time login, but this time it's prompting me to reset my password as well because that password was created by administrator called XCLCCDM. So I have to reset my password first, and then it's prompting me the set my challenge questions so that if I forgot my password, I can reset it by coming here or by answering the challenge questions. Click on submit. There is another table where it maintains these challenge questions, and we'll have a separate module where we look at these challenge questions, how to set up and how to increase or change the length. So now here, because it's a self-service, you should be able to access pretty much everything. However, when you go to manage, because this user doesn't have a lot of privileges, so this user won't be able to create a new organization or create a new role. So if I click on roles and then say create, it's grayed out for me. This user can't create a role. Similarly, if I go to organization and if I need to create actions and then I can only open, there is no create button. Now from a search as well, I can only search within my organization. So if you notice earlier when I was doing logging in as Excel Cesidium, I had three groups or three organizations, Accelerate and I think Top and one more. So right now, because this user is an end user that doesn't have a lot of permissions, so it can only view the organization and members within that. So let's see even if we can search other members. We should be able to search other members within that organization, but you can't go and look at members in other organization unless you own that. If you notice here, it's saying view only mode, which means I can't even modify any attributes for this admin for this organization because I'm not an administrator for this organization. So this completes identity self-service console in Oracle Identity Manager. Head on to the next lesson where we are going to look at the sysadmin console or the fourth and final console in Oracle Identity Manager, that is sysadmin console.